Hey class, we made it to week 8, so this is the last week of the class. I want to thank you guys for all of your hard work. I know that it was a lot of work to do in a short amount of time, and hopefully I will see some of you in future classes. So this week we're talking about trends. So I'm constantly looking at the news to see what pops up. As we have discussed in the class, there's a lot of bills and different legislation that comes up that directly affects the work that we do in criminal justice. So one of the trends, or at least one of the issues that I think is a hot topic right now, you will probably discuss in most of your classes, is the issue of homelessness, just because it's an increasing problem in California and there isn't really one answer as to how to solve it. So Governor Newsom recently announced that he was creating what he calls a care court. So the care court would actually be a court-ordered treatment plan that would assist people in the homeless community getting their mental health services. Some proponents of the bill say that approximately 7 to 12,000 people that are currently living on the streets would actually be court-ordered into a program. There are some people that are naysayers of this bill, and their biggest argument against it is that they're looking at an individual's rights, so that people are going to be forced into going into care and that they may give up some of their civil liberties. So anytime that you have something like this, it's not going to be just something, we go and we pick people up off the street and force them to go into treatment. They are most likely going to be some type of hearing, and there are going to be different criteria for how a person gets put into this placement. I can tell you, working with homeless individuals, there are many that do suffer from mental health illnesses. I have had a couple of people on parole that would be ideal candidates for this program because they absolutely have a very difficult time making decisions on their own, and they do have mental health issues, and we see that in the community. The unfortunate part is that a lot of the behaviors that they display are now misdemeanors. So things such as public nuisance, petty crimes, petty theft, all those are not things that they are necessarily going to stay incarcerated for a long time. They're not going to stay in jail, which that in itself is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does create an issue when they're constantly going in and out of jail and they're basically a nuisance on the community. So I was reading the plan and they actually talked about conservatorship. I'm sure many of you are now familiar with conservatorship because it's been another term tossed around with the whole Britney Spears conservatorship. So a lot of people are now familiar with it, but basically a conservatorship is when you have an entity or a government person that's appointed to you that makes decisions for you regarding your health. So it will be interesting to see, if this bill passes. So I definitely, for those of you that are interested in criminal justice and getting a career, and I know a couple of you guys have mentioned sheriffs and they're going to different police departments. This is absolutely going to be something that is going to impact you because you will be constantly dealing with the homeless population. If you look, especially right now in Oxnard, because I supervise a lot of Ventura County, The homeless population in Oxnard is getting bigger. Homeless population in Ventura. There's a pretty big population in the Newberry Park, like Thousand Oaks area. They have their little encampments, but it's something that's going, people that are against the care court, and mainly those are the individuals that, they believe that it's going to stigmatize individuals with mental health, that it's going to strip them of their rights. But I think everybody is in consensus, whether you're for it or against it, that something has to be done when it comes to the homeless population, just because there is so much, there's so many calls of service to that population, and a lot of it could be prevented if they were to be compliant with medication, get access to the services. And it's interesting when you talk to people, because a lot of people that don't really have interactions with the homeless, and they just see certain things or they hear certain things in the news, they think that the services are not there. But we have a lot of services, and the reality is that a lot of them choose not to take them. So I have certain individuals on my caseload that every month it's the same conversation. I'll say, hey, how are you doing? Are you getting services? I have a bed available for you. You can go into treatment right now. I'll pick you up. I'll take you there. And every month it's the same. It's no, I'm fine. I'm okay on the street. Like I go to the shelter, get my stuff. I get food. I pick up cans. But the substance abuse is definitely one of the big reasons why a lot of them choose to live in the street. But also the mental health aspect of it, because when you combine those two, it can lead to violence, and it can lead to, a lot of the erratic behaviors that people in the community see, and they don't know how to deal with them, and so their first response is, I'm going to call the police. So it does take away from the police department's job, because they're having to constantly respond to calls of service for people dealing with people that are transient. But definitely keep that bill as something, keep your eye on it, because all of that is going to be something that is something that's trending, and that's definitely going to affect our job in criminal justice, because the impact of taking so many people off the street and placing them into care is going to be a positive thing. At least from my perspective, it'll be a positive thing, because it will alleviate a lot of the issues in the community, especially for those individuals that do exhibit mental health symptoms and that do lash out or act out in violent ways.